and happy Wednesday to the world out there. And gentlemen, happy podcast day.
G'day.
Ooh, we got the Australian in today. Nice.
Sort of. G'day.
Gentlemen, how's it going? We're back. This is the Hawkscast.net podcast, and we are here to talk about some final preseason games. And I have a lot of opinions about what we saw over the past 2 weekends, but it's good to hear from both of you. I'm happy to hear that the world hasn't completely exploded yet. For Ross, obviously, you've got some immediate issues we'll keep an eye on, but for the most part, we're all here together, and I'm happy to talk about the Seahawks.
Well, I'm in Portland, and it is officially razed to the ground. It no longer exists as a city, so my world is in shambles.
I was telling Zeb this before the podcast started. That was a good run, and I'm glad that I visited Portland before it turned to ash and rubble. But, from the ashes come the phoenix, so, maybe a brighter Portland will appear soon.
New Portland.
New Portland.
Was there like a new round of something? Am I missing something?
Yeah, we had a little mini war this weekend.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Between who and who?
Between the I believe it was between the Proud Boys and the Ants.
Oh, I think I saw that. I saw where like the Portland police were hanging out with BLM, but sort of, like monitoring closely BLM, but like not really watching it all with the Proud Boys or something. I don't know.
Yeah, the police decided to sit this one out. They just kind of let them go for it. So I think it worked out well. I don't think a few people got shot.
That's good times, right? Just let people do their own thing. It's kind of like how the Seahawks have done their preseason. They're like, yeah, kind of other teams just kind of do whatever you want. We'll just be on the field.
Yeah, we'll be there. We won't necessarily be participating, but we'll be there.
We're there in spirit, but not in heart.
The Seahawks are just there so they don't get fined.
Yeah, pretty much. I know it was the first Seahawks game. I didn't go. We've talked about that before. I'm planning on not going to any games live this year due to concerns for my family, not so much myself. But that was the first live Seahawks game in almost like 2 years. It was like, I think the actual time was like 14 or 18 months, but that's pretty much 2 years, which is a really long time not to have fans in their home stadium. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it really is.
And I felt like there were a lot of fans there for a preseason game. Like, a lot of people were excited to be there.
It's sold out, so
joke's on them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they expected
16,000 people paying full price.
I mean, 3 points. It's pretty awful.
I'm so ready for this preseason.
That's like $40 a point for a lot of seats.
Yeah, yeah, really. Which is even more unreal because there were definitely not a lot of starters playing in that game. Off the top of my head, I think it was Kyle Fuller, Michael Dixon, Jason Myers, our kicker, and Trey Brown, and maybe starting, but I don't think he is now because with the trade we made. And Trey Flowers got some playing time, but I don't know if those guys are definitively starting with the trade they just made for Reed from Houston. So I don't know how many starters we'll actually see in the preseason this year.
Have they talked? I haven't seen. I was actually going to ask that. Have they talked about who's going to be playing for the third game?
It's been pretty silent. Like, they've talked about how people have come back to practice. So Dwayne Eskridge, he officially got activated off the PEP last week, and he didn't play in the preseason game, but he's been practicing, and people are saying that he's looking fantastic. Trey Brown is getting really high pub. Stone Forsythe, he's a 6th-rounder. He's getting playing time, but he's not anywhere close to a starter, but we don't have anyone in front of him if Dwayne Brown decides to hold out, which I don't think he will, but
that's a lot of leverage.
It's a lot of concern, I think. I don't know what's going to happen. We'll have to see how that plays out. We'll talk about that in one of our topics later on. But yeah, for the most part, it's kind of like a totally weird preseason. Not just for the play on the field either.
Yeah, I agree.
So we don't. Pete Carroll is becoming increasingly unique in that the Seahawks don't scrimmage with other teams. And
right. That seems to be a more common thing, that you're hearing more teams like will scrimmage against each other.
And we're not playing any starters in the preseason.
Yeah.
And we're scoring 3 points. If we come out with some rust and we come out flat in week 1, do you think next year Pete will play starters more in preseason and or start doing scrimmages with other teams?
You know, we have a topic for the preseason, so let's hold our thoughts on preseason. But that is a really good question because I would assume geographically that's kind of a pain for some teams to fly all the way out.
It's 2 hours to San Francisco.
Yeah, but I doubt Seattle and San Francisco really want to scrimmage with each other.
That's a lot of fights waiting to happen.
Yeah, I mean, because that's the other thing that it appears to have happened is scrimmages have been like a breeding ground for fights amongst, opposing players, which, understandable. It's hot summer, people are going to get heated up and, everyone's fighting for a job. So I could see that happening. But yeah, we'll see what happens. But, we're going to welcome in this final preseason game of the year, thankfully. The Seahawks starters have all gotten a lot of rest, but there may be some turmoil with, 21 Seahawks entering the final year of their contract. We actually haven't seen any of those players that are on their final year of their contract really play this year. The Seahawks secured strong safety Jamal Adams for an additional 4 years, but now there are other players that are waiting in line for their extension. The Seahawks host the Chargers in this final game, but we really don't know what to expect, as Pete is keeping things very close to his vest. This is a HawksCast.net podcast, and we're going to start with topic number 1. Topic number 1, Zeb, I need to know, have you fallen in love with any player yet? Who is your Mr. August?
I have not fallen in love with anybody, not even close. It's been some of the worst football I've ever watched in my life from a general standpoint. There's been a couple of guys who've stood out. I don't want to take up all the opportunities because there's not many, but obviously DJ Dallas has looked great in his limited action. I think as far as playmakers and offense goes, he's looked like the most ready to step in and do something, where guys like Penny haven't shown much. And obviously Chris Carson hasn't played at all. But DJ Dallas looked good carrying the ball. He looked good on kick returns. He's pretty much been one of the few bright spots of the preseason so far on offense.
Would you say that DJ Dallas is your number 2 behind Carson?
Yeah, at this point. I mean, I don't know where he's at as far as blocking goes. I think Homer's still going to be our guy for third downs because of that. But Dallas, to me, looks like a much more instinctive runner than Penny mostly has during his career. So I feel like, again, it's all preseason, so we don't see what the coaches see necessarily, but he's outplayed everybody so far.
Ross, what about you? Do you have a Mr. August?
I accept it. I mean, it's there's not a lot to choose from this year.
Are we saying Zeb is stolen everyone's thunder because there's really no one?
I mean, he doesn't have a lot of choice.
There's 2 other guys I had in mind that I didn't say because I thought you guys might want to.
I don't. I mean, like Zeb said, like the obvious person who's been the standout through 2 games is DJ Dallas. I don't know how much he stood out as a runner. Last game he didn't get any carries. He caught 3 passes, I think. I mean, he's the punt block, the kick returns look awesome.
He had the lone touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, but again, that was on a pass, not on a touchdown. So I don't even know that he's necessarily going to be our RB2. I mean, not to say he won't be, or that he doesn't show anything, but as far as actually running the ball and pass protection, I can't really choose between him and Penny at the moment. And I still think back to, like, if Penny's knee is all the way back, I mean, again, like, Penny's been running behind. Penny is potentially, once upon a time, he's shown games in the past, years past now, that he can be an RB1. But he's been running behind, guard 2, 3, 4, 5. So, I don't... But anyway, to the question, sadly, I don't have a Mr. August this year. I want to, but I think Forsythe has whiffed a couple times, but I'm really cheering for him. Almost as a practical matter, though. I mean, there was a few people I was looking forward to being my Mr. August, and they've been in bubble wrap, or they're already hurt, or they're not playing, or whatever. I was getting ready to fall in love with Trey Brown. I was getting ready to fall in love with one of the positions that always is some wide receiver that ends up with like 4 catches per game for 3 games or 4 games, and but there's none of that happening. And sorry, Freddie Swing doesn't do much for me.
Yeah.
I guess Eskridge was going to be somebody we were really into, and we haven't gotten to see him play. So, partly because of how the games have gone, and partly because I think by design and things being held close to the vest, there is not much to fall in love with. I wouldn't say I fall in love, and it's not like a surprising thing, but I do think that Brooks is playing really, really well. And I'm glad to see he's playing with speed. Like, he seems to be a lot more comfortable with his assignments this year.
Yeah, that seems to be the press, that Brooks is kind of solidifying himself. He's like the one lone starter that's gotten like meaningful snaps. It's kind of hard to think about this preseason because it's just so unusual. I mean, we went from a year with no preseason directly into the games, and now this preseason's been cut down to 3 games. And that Denver game, like, a lot of people don't realize, like, Denver played a lot of their first team because they're trying to figure out like who's going to be their quarterback. The one player, if I'm gonna pick someone, I think it might be Alton Robinson. I thought Alton Robinson had a great first 2 games. He's getting meaningful snaps. I'm not saying he needs to be our de facto starter at rush end, but I thought he played a really consistent game. He's getting a lot of pressure. He's getting in the backfield. He's doing all the things you want to see. The one lone problem was when he got stuck out in coverage against a wide receiver. I imagine that was not intended. I don't know why you would ever put a rush end, covering a guy in the flat all the way up into the end zone, but that's like his one spotty mark that I recall. So kind of somewhat pulling teeth here, but yeah, I think that's the one that I think of. But yeah, there's just these preseason games have been really, really like poor.
Yeah, they've been pretty rough. I will say honorable mention to Nick Ballore, who all of a sudden looks like Chris Borland out there playing linebacker.
Yeah,
God, that's a good call. That's like, you know what, like, I was sort of thinking in terms of rookies or whatever, but if I had to, I would. Oh, damn, Zeb, that's so good. If it doesn't have to be a rookie or somebody who's never played, like kind of it is Nick Ballore, isn't it? That just blowing my mind. Like all of a sudden, like playing both ways, all throwback. I had no idea he could do that. Did you?
Good. It was kind of like at first it was like, okay, well, Nick Ballore's out there playing linebacker.
Right. We have to have somebody to fill in. Dude had he looked good, didn't he?
He really did.
He looked really serviceable.
Yeah,
obviously,
loss even.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to see that guy starting with Bobby, but if he's going to be your backup, it's not a bad place to be for sure.
And like that's a way to like always have a position on a Pete Carroll run team.
Yeah, if you can play three positions, yeah, if you can play a spot rotational linebacker, you can play coverage and special teams, you can play both sides of special teams and coverage, and then you can play like fullback. That's like the ultimate Pete Carroll player that's essentially 4 spots that he's going to be able to fill for one roster spot.
And like, yeah, I was gonna say, the more disparate the positions are, the more they like you being able to do that, right? Like, if you're like a guard but who can also play free safety, like you're guaranteed a spot,
right?
Fullback to linebacker is not a complete stretch, but usually you see fullbacks if they play any other position still in offense, and it's like tight end. Yeah, but they're going fullback to linebacker and then doing it like well. He didn't look out of. I mean, he wasn't Lawrence Taylor, but he didn't look like out of his league or anything, right?
No, and he made plays. So
yeah, I mean, like I said, like he had like 5 tackles, which is the second most on the team. One of them for like 4-yard loss. Yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah, I think you have to be happy with what he's bringing, especially with such a weird preseason. I don't know if there's anyone that's really going to be able to get a grasp of what that looks like. I don't know. We'll see. But I still think that it was football, and people are excited for football, and that's always going to be a plus. But any final thoughts about just your Mr. August before we move on to topic number 2?
I'm actually a little disappointed that there hasn't been more of an unknown standout, so that kind of sucks.
But I almost feel like there hasn't been an opportunity. Like, we haven't got anything going on offense at all.
No.
And so nobody's had a chance to really shine. Have they? Like, if you can't get first downs, you can't keep a drive going. The first game we had something like 49 plays. And you considering how much time, the play time has to be divided up, there's just not much opportunity for us to fall in love with like anybody because nobody's out there. Does any wide receiver have more than like 2 catches? Maybe
not across the 2 games, just because there's no tempo. I think that's kind of something that we heard all off season. We're not going to run a hurry up. We're not going to fast paced offense. It's going to be we're going to run tempo. Get a big play downfield. We're going to run to the line. We're going to get a new play. We're not going to always go to a huddle. So
has been something I've noticed. I mean, they're getting to the line of scrimmage with 15 seconds to go.
But the problem is when they do that, they can't run the second play. Like the second play after they run to the line, it's just kind of nothing. So there's no tempo, there's no rhythm, there's no like consistency to that, and I think that's kind of why we haven't seen someone really like stand up. But that brings us to topic number 2. So Ross,
wait, sorry, just remember we can't move on without mentioning the guy who got penalized 14,000 times.
That guy got cut. I was telling you guys, I was writing this on the forum. I didn't even bother remembering his name because he was so bad. Was it Wood Anderson? All I know is he's number 49.
Wood Anderson. I felt so bad for him. Because, like, the fact is, he can't actually have been that bad because he's not even a rookie. He's been around. He was on a practice squad, I think, last year. Signed. It wasn't on the preseason. That wasn't a preseason last year. But, like, he can't actually normally be that bad because he would have never gotten this far, right? So, like, imagine, like, the 2 worst games of your life come when it matters the most.
Right.
Like, I just felt so... Because a little bit just sort of random chance, right?
And we need... There was a spot for a tight end with Parkinson being injured, so... Maybe he was pressing, and that's why they didn't cut him after the first game. But after the second game, just like
5 penalties. 5 penalties. He was only on the field for like 30 plays. Like 1/6 of the time you're out there, you're being penalized.
I mean,
first game he had 2 drops and 1 penalty, or is that opposite? 1 drop and 2 penalties.
He had 2 drops in the first game and a penalty in the first game. In the second game, he had multiple penalties. I don't remember if he actually got a ball thrown his way.
It's so painful. I felt so bad for him, actually. Like, after, like, 2 penalties, you, like, kind of... I was, like, upset or angry or whatever. When it got to, like, 5, it totally reversed in my mind. I just felt bad for the guy. Like, here's your dream. This is, like... That's the last game he's ever going to play. Nobody's going to pick him. That's the last...
Maybe he gets stashed on a practice squad somewhere, and, like, maybe with the current practice squad rules... he'll be able to like stick around on a roster, but yeah, it was just a really, really poor showing. So yeah, as on a personal level, I feel bad for the guy, but from a performance roster Seahawks level, like that guy looked like he didn't belong on the field.
Yeah, and it's like you said, like there was a perfect opportunity. They want to run a lot of 2 tight ends things, so we need at least one more wide receiver, one more tight end, and there was the spot for you right there, man. Your whole life, your whole dream. It's that song by Eminem, man. If you had one opportunity to seize everything you ever wanted in one moment, would you capture it or just let it slip?
Let it slip.
Poetry.
With a yellow flag.
All right. Well, let's go to topic number 2. Zeb, thank you. That was actually a great injection there.
No sweat.
But Ross, what are the Seahawks trying to hide in the preseason? We didn't have any preseason games last year. We came out super hot. Are they trying to recapture that?
Man, I don't know what they're trying to hide because, like, I don't know, man. Like, this is a hard question for me because I don't think this preseason has gone. Did you listen to Pete Carroll's comments after the last game? A little bit? No, nothing.
I caught the recap from one Matty F. Brown on Twitter.
Okay.
And he was saying that, yeah, Pete was showing a lot of emotion, saying like that's not what they want to look like. Which again, it was sloppy games from all over the field. So I know that's not what Pete wants to see.
I think Pete was sold a bill of goods on how to handle preseason. He's trying to be open-minded, and I don't think he likes how this has looked, and I don't think it's what we're going to see next year. And I mean, I don't think Pete Carroll's trying to hide it. I don't know if it's like John Schneider like went the other way, or if Shane like spoke in his ear. I mean, like, essentially, the Seahawks are trying to hide literally everything, right? They're not giving away in the game plan at all. But it's like, normally you don't game plan for these, but you do try out different plays. But they haven't had the ball long enough to try those out, so I don't even know if it's, like, deliberate. They're clearly trying to hide some formations because it's been a lot of the same stuff. I don't know. Like, I can't tell if they're actively trying to hide or they've just been beaten down. I mean, like, you roll out your quarterback 3 against, like, Denver's got a legit defense, and they played their real defense the first half.
Yeah.
So you're playing, I mean, they're like a top 10, top 5 maybe defense, and you're rolling at your all number 2s, but then, like, I get you don't want to have injuries, but it's I think I'm not answering a question. I'm sorry, because I just don't think anything has gone right. I don't think anything's gone to plan. So I don't know if we're seeing what Pete or anybody else's plan was for preseason, because it's all just gone to hell. Yeah. Nothing has worked. You can't keep the ball. You can't get any rhythm going. You can't get any continuity going. And sometimes it's individual people's fault. Sometimes it's just you can't matriculate down the field. And then you get Alex Magoo. Again, like, you just feel bad for these people because they're not that bad. Alex Magoo has been hanging around now. This is his 4th year. He can semi-play. He's a fringe player in the NFL, but he is a fringe player. But he looked like, he didn't look like he belonged either, right? A panic second interception. He fumbled the ball, threw another interception, all in one half. I just don't know if you can tell anything. And I don't think, maybe the third game they're just going to go with what they'd already planned from the beginning because it's hard to change. But I think next year we're going to see things be substantially different.
Interesting. We have to wait a whole year to wait to see if that trees, though.
They write that down.
Right.
No, but I mean, I really get the feeling like Pete Carroll's like frustrated. You got a new offense. You haven't even seen like what it looks like.
Right.
Zeb, what about you? Do you think the Seahawks are trying to hide something, or is this just like they just fucked up?
I mean, I hope they're trying to hide everything because they've shown us nothing. And I can't help but think that what happened last year plays into it. It makes sense. So maybe they are kind of trying to recreate what happened last year. I hope so, because I don't really see, unless all of a sudden they're super worried about people getting hurt, which I guess is, a reasonable thought. But like, I've just, it's new. I've never seen this before. This has never happened. Like I just don't really know how to process it. So at the very least, we will at least be hiding stuff, and it'll be a surprise how things are going to go once the game starts. But I don't know that that's the best way to go about it. It's confusing and it's kind of frustrating, and more than that, it's just been boring and hard to watch as a fan. Not that they have any obligation to entertain me during preseason or anything like that, but like, it sucks. Like, I got home all excited to watch the game last weekend, and within 10 minutes I was like, ugh, I don't want to watch that. I don't even want to watch it. And I watched the whole damn thing.
That's
wow, you hung in there.
That's a lot more patience than I was able to muster. I gave up at halftime. Once they brought in Sean Mannion and it was just like check down city, I was like, all right, I'm not gonna gain anything by watching this. So I watched the highlights, but yeah, there was really nothing of note worth watching.
You watched the highlights. That was a short. I mean,
yeah, it was a highlight for the entire game, so there was more Bronco highlights than anything else.
Yeah. Some DJ.
Did you see that? Did you see Sean Mannion on the sidelines?
I don't know. Is there something crazy?
Helmet? Have you seen him with his helmet off?
No.
Like, that dude looks older than I do.
Really? He's only been in the league for like what, 4 years, I think?
No. He's been around, dude. That
okay.
dude's hung around, but like that dude looks old. And he's got like you need to shave your head, but you don't realize it yet. So he's got like the monk haircut, like the big empty spot on the top, and like a ring of hair around it. That dude looked old.
He's 29.
Can I? We didn't do anything after the first preseason game, so can I go back to game one just real quick?
Yeah.
Did I saw him on the sideline? Did Derek Carr? Is that his name? Am I confusing him?
Derek Carr, yeah. The quarterback for the Raiders?
Did he stop wearing eye makeup?
No, I think he just has like really thick lashes, and it looks like he wears eyeliner.
No, he wears eye makeup, but I don't think he does anymore.
I think he stopped wearing eye makeup.
I think he stopped wearing it. He doesn't look like that anymore. Doesn't look like the dude from Green Day anymore. Like, he used to look exactly like the dude from Green Day, like, including the eyeliner. Like, I'm pretty sure, maybe he's got thick eye borders. I don't know what you'd call it. It was not the eyelash, but it looks like, looked like it. Yeah, but, so it looks like he was wearing eyeliner. I'm pretty sure he was wearing eyeliner, but he doesn't look like that now. But it could be that he's grown this weird beard, and it might be just distracting from his makeup.
It could be. Trying to reinvent himself for Las Vegas.
Maybe. Although you'd think that makeup on a dude would go down better in Las Vegas than Oakland.
But then people might not take him seriously as a quarterback. They might think, no, you're the halftime show. You don't get to come in early.
If you're a white dude walking around Oakland and you're wearing eye makeup, have you been to Oakland?
I mean, I've been to Oakland, but maybe not the places I should be worried about. But
yeah, I mean, no disrespect, and I love Marshawn Lynch, but Oakland is not a great place for like a white dude to walk around wearing eye makeup.
Well, we'll have to put that to the test one day. I know one of you will be able to serve us well for that purpose then.
I'm going to have to keep an eye out, because if that dude has been wearing eye makeup all this time, that's a little weird.
I'm going to send you a picture. Like that dude legit wears like eyeliner.
All right, we're gonna have to put it on the forum, and we'll put a poll up and ask, is Derek Carr wearing makeup, and we'll just have to settle it that way.
I just haven't seen him now, what you're talking about now, that he looks like he isn't wearing it anymore, so I need something to compare it to. It totally looks like he's wearing eyeliner before, but I need to see this new version of him. So
I'm gonna send you. You can keep talking. I'm just gonna do this one.
All right. So my thoughts about what the Seahawks are trying to hide. I don't think they are trying to hide anything, because I think that this isn't what they want to do. Like, whether through necessity or anything else, like, they haven't played their starters, and to expect their backups to do.
Okay, I'm wrong. He might still be wearing eyeliner.
Well, Ross is obsessed. We're not going to be able to get through the show without talking about this more. Well, one thing I do want to kind of come back to is we've talked about this on the podcast in the past, where one of the faults of Pete Carroll is they're not good at self-scouting. And I wonder if that is a case that we're seeing now, where in practice they're doing all the things and the backups are doing all the things, but because they're doing it against themselves, it's the ones versus the twos and the twos versus the ones, because they don't seem to have a great track record of self-scouting, they're kind of going into these games almost ill-prepared, because the teams, the Seahawks as a team, they know what they need to do, but they can't translate that to the field because it's not the same environment, or they're like, oh, well, we didn't expect them to do A, so we couldn't do B. I wonder if that's something that comes into play, and I think maybe in Game 3 we'll get a little bit of idea if we ever see the starters. Not that I really want to, but kind of want them just to truck out,
And you say you don't want to, that's because you're afraid of injury, right? But like,
I don't know what, like, through these two games, what am I going to learn? I'm not going to learn anything. All the players that I want to see are all veteran players. I don't expect them to all of a sudden learn how to play football.
But they've not played this offense in a real game, and it's different. It is different.
I know, and that's the self-scanning, and that's what I think we're potentially seeing, except they're doing it with the twos and threes instead of the ones.
Well, like last week was a really, really great chance because Denver threw out their ones, and like Russell Wilson could have ran the first time he's had to play a different offense, sort of a different offense this year, and he could have had a chance to play that against like a real team, except for like his, So, but I don't know, man. I know people have to be cautious, and we did lose 2 players. I mean, but at the same time, I don't think you can like play scared, and I think you have to balance protecting yourself with preparing yourself, and I don't think we're prepared, to be honest.
See, I think that's very possible. It's a fine line. To me, though, what it is always going to come down to is when you're playing doesn't matter. Like, if it were up to me at this point, I'd rather play a 20-week regular season game with 2 buys than 17 games and 3 games that really don't mean anything at all. Like, I'm having a harder and harder time understanding why a guy like John Usua and Brian Burke-Hervin are playing in these games, getting injured, and their entire year is done in a game that didn't mean anything. Like, I don't know how I personally reconcile that. I know it's part of the game. I know injuries are part of the game and they happen. You can't control when they happen. But for them to happen in a game that ultimately will not matter at the end of this year, I just have a hard time with it. And there's a lot of cases where preseason games have really helped the Seahawks. Russell Wilson built his career in the preseason and in training camp. If he didn't have a preseason game, he would not be our starter in year 1. So I know that there are opportunities, but this is a veteran team. I just don't see the value.
Okay, well, there's 2 things there. One, like, who are we not finding out is good? Who of the 2s and the 3s is out there? And if it was playing mixed, because it's a team game. It's not just about you. It's how you mesh with other people. If half of the team, if 6 players were starters and 5 players were backups. For example, like if you have Russell Wilson with his offensive line, now he's throwing to a backup tight end, or now he's throwing to backup wide receivers. There's a much better chance that somebody who is going to shine is going to shine in that situation with Russ throwing to him, with Russ with time throwing to him, than Alex the Panic Man Magoo throwing to him. Who are we missing? What depth don't we know that? What depth aren't we showing because they're not getting an opportunity to play with them? And yes, you say like it's hard to justify somebody getting hurt in a game that doesn't matter. But the thing is, the game doesn't matter because if you don't play that game, you may not be prepared. It sucks that you have to practice, but you have to practice.
I don't think you're wrong in that sense, but I think we saw you can still play and be prepared to whatever degree you think is necessary without a preseason. I think 2020 showed that. I'm not saying we have to eliminate the preseason completely. There is definitely value. I'm more focused on this year and just my concern about injuries in general. That's more my general point.
I think
I get it.
Last year nobody had preseason,
right?
So it was the same for everybody. This year, we're the only team doing this. We're not. There's other teams that are resting most of their starters too, but that could potentially put us at a competitive disadvantage, particularly because we're learning a new system. So
I understand that, but I think there's also been examples where people have really shined in the preseason and they don't make the team. Caison Williams is a great point. Everyone was like tripping over themselves talking about how great Caison Williams played in those 4 preseason games. He played it not only with Russell Wilson, but with other quarterbacks throwing him the ball. He got cut, and the team was shocked. So that was the case with someone who played not only well in the games, but also in practice, and he wasn't considered good enough to be on the 53-man roster. So
he didn't make the team because when you get to the 5th or 6th wide receiver, you're now talking about special teams contribution, which wasn't his thing.
Yeah, but if that's also the case, like if he couldn't play special teams as the 4th, 5th, 6th receiver, that must have been a pretty bad deficiency because his on-field skill as a 4th, 5th receiver seemed like much better opportunity than what.
Well, that's the thing though. Like his contribution, when you know who you're gonna. I mean, when you get to 5th wide receiver, yeah, your special teams probably matters. Like at a 2-to-1 ratio over how good you play wide receiver, because
that's where all your snaps are going to come from.
Yeah, you're going to play 20 snaps a week at special teams, so that's 300 snaps plus snaps a year, 350 almost now, and you're going to play probably 20 snaps a wide receiver the whole year, and mostly as a decoy. So yeah, that's all that matters. Really? But right now, we don't even know who our wide receiver 3 and 4 is. Like, we're assuming Freddie Swain or Eskridge because Eskridge just finally started practicing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's true as well. But the team knows, we as fans don't. And I know that's, like, very disconcerting. Like, we want to know as much as we can, and we don't.
Yeah, I miss going to training camp. I want to see what the training camp because I might feel better. I might feel better if I was watching training camp and seeing like, hey, in training camp they're still getting these plays in. Because my concern right now is like, from what we've seen, like, how much of their playbook have they even actually ran at full speed one time ever? Like,
I mean, that's the joke online. We didn't talk about it because it was such a hot flash, but Luke Wilson returned for like a hot second, signed as the third tight end. Came to practice for a day and retired, and people are joking. He probably saw the Shane Waldron playbook and like, nah, I'm out, I'm good, and he left. So,
oh, gee, I got to learn all that.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's valid to be concerned about a lot of those things, a lot of those unknowns, and we didn't really have a chance to do that last year because there was nothing to even talk about because information was so limited. Now people can go to training camp. Now, they have had a live scrimmage. They've had 2 preseason games. But I don't know if we as fans feel any more informed or involved other than what we're hearing from beat reporters or what the Seahawks are telling us. Like, they're saying, oh, yeah, this player played great. But if we don't see him in the game doing that, I don't know if people are going to feel that that's like a true statement.
I mean, it just feels like a balance out kind of thing. I take camp reports, depends on who's they're from. I take them pretty seriously. And, like, they can, again, like I keep saying, I miss training camp because now that I've gone to so many for so many years, I feel that just watching preseason games is almost like a misleading thing. Yeah. Because a person who plays, I mean, sometimes what you do in a game it's all situational. There's no black and white. What you do in a game sometimes can matter so much more. But at the same time, it's also limited so statistically. So if you're going to have one drop here, but it happened to come in that one preseason game, But if you're working your tail off and you're performing well day after day after day in drills and one-on-one drills and in team drills in training camp for 3 weeks, surely that should hold more weight. As long as, depending on what you're doing, but depending on the kind of drills, whatever. But surely that holds some weight as well. And I think sometimes when we get outraged by coach's decision, that is because of that. But it's all, it comes down to coaching philosophy too. Like, what do you do with the player? I mean, there's players like historically who've not been great practicers, but just show up in games. I mean, historically, like famous great players even have been like that, right?
Yeah, Walter Jones is a great example. I'm not going to go to preseason. I'm not going to go to
he's not going to go.
I'm just going to show up like 3 days before the game and rock and roll.
Right. I mean, there have been people, though, who, like, actually, like, back in the old days, used to have to go to the 2-a-days every day and, like, basically were, like, really lazy about it or didn't really give it their all. But once, the bright lights are on and there's fans in the seats and the cheering's going on and it matters, they turn it on. So it's part of coaching, being able to understand, like, who's like a person who's just bad at practicing but good in player, so good in the game, so you value their game performance better. Who's just just having a bad day, but those practices really should be weighted more. And man, it's a nightmare to figure out. Coaches do a lot more than we see, huh?
Yeah.
Maybe Pete Carroll knows what he's doing.
Yeah. All right, we gotta move ahead. I don't want to Russ's potential
my rant
firestorms to go out, but we're gonna move on to top number 3.
Sorry.
No. Good stuff, always good stuff. But topic number 3, the Hawks Cast Corner. Did the Seahawks make the right move by extending strong safety Jamal Adams, Zeb? It's a 4-year deal on top of his current 1-year deal, so it's 5 years. He's got a lot of money guaranteed. He's the highest paid safety in the league now, but he is not the highest paid defensive player. He is still paid less per year on average than one Mr. Bobby Wagner. Did the Seahawks make the right move?
Yeah, they made the right move. I think they made the only move they could make. I think they had to do this. And I think going in with the assumption that Jamal lives up to his potential and manages to stay relatively healthy, it should prove to be the absolute right decision, even in hindsight. Now, there's a lot of things that could go wrong making it look in the long run like a bad decision. But where we're at right now, where he's at right now, what we're trying to do, I don't think they had any choice but to make this deal happen. And it's possible now that there's a couple other guys that they may want to look into doing something similar. Obviously, not making them the highest paid at anything, but you can't pay everybody, obviously, but you have to pay some of them because they're who you have.
We call that the Zeb axiom.
Yeah. It's just you. Of course, you're always going to be looking for new young talent who you can pay cheap and get great play out of them. But you have to keep some of your guys around when they've proven they can do what you need them to do. So we have a lot of question marks going into this season. I think it's beneficial to the team and to the defense in general to have these kind of things settled and out of the way soon. So I'm glad they did what they did.
Ross, what about you? There's a forum topic on this. A lot of people commented. You obviously talked a lot about it. What do you think now, knowing that they've signed the extension, he's in camp, practicing before he was just kind of like attending walkthroughs and like there? Is this the right move? Is it the right price?
It's the right price, although nobody likes to make very much of the fact that it's apparently $2 million over what we were reporting for a week. But whatever. But it doesn't sound like much. That's $500,000 a year, which you're getting. I mean, but they managed to keep it below the Bobby Wagner number, which was very symbolic. Okay, great. I'm going to steal the thunder from our topic number 4 just a little bit to answer this, and I'm sorry, but it's the only way I can answer it. It was absolutely the right move to trade for him. It's absolutely the right move to extend him. He's a dynamic player. But here's the thing. If you're going to get that, if you're going to go out and get the great athlete at strong safety who can blitz like nobody else has ever blitzed before, can time it right, got the moves, can fake out people when he needs to, can even occasionally bull rush a tight end out of the way, you can get that dude, that's great. But you also have to recognize what that does to the defense. And that means if you're going to get the maximum out of him, you have to invest in the players around him that let you get the maximum out of that. In other words, if you're going to buy a great, great, great engine, but you're not willing to buy the frame for the airplane or the car to put around it that can hold it, then you're not going to get the maximum value out of your engine. What's the use of buying an airplane engine that puts out 18,000 pounds of thrust for the jet engine if the frame itself can only hold 9?
I'm gonna restructure your comment there real quick, Ross, for something I can understand. It's like buying a nice New York strip steak and trying to cook it in my toaster oven. I think that's what you're trying to
yeah. I mean, if that's all you've got to cook it on, then why buy the New York strip steak instead of just buying some beef shreds to put on your frozen pizza? Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. So if you want to pay 18.5 or 17.5 million to Adams and get those sacks and make offenses have somebody that actually have to game plan around, that's great. But to get the max value out of him, now you have to have cover cornerbacks that you trust enough that lets you blitz your strong safety every time, because you're going to be losing one out of coverage there every time. Even if you just move up into the box, but he bails, you're still putting yourself at a disadvantage. So you have to then also invest at cornerback. You have to go and get at least one, not even just like acceptable cornerback. You have to go get a good cornerback on his side so that you can trust him to do what he's doing. Because otherwise, all you're doing is like hoping he gets there in time, and if he doesn't, somebody's open every time, like we saw last year.
Right.
You have to have the pieces. It's not, especially like if you invest in an edge rusher, there's no downside. There's like, just go get the edge rusher. He just does it himself. But once you get into other positions, whether it's linebacker or particularly safety, it starts to influence the positions around it. And I think you have to not skimp on the rest. You had to go get somebody. Like I said, I'm stealing the thunder of topic number 4. We'll tie it in, but I've got another answer as well. So I haven't completely blown my load here. But that's my answer. I was like, yeah, I think it's a good move. But with my axiom, as opposed to Zeb's axiom, it's a great move, but you have to make one more move to make it worth it completely. And that's let him do his thing by having a no-worry corner.
It's interesting that you bring that up because that is a component that a lot of people think about. It's like saying you can have a great wide receiver, but if you don't have a good quarterback that can get them the ball, it's totally worthless because what's the point? Football is such a unique sport that it is so complementary. So having a cover corner safety like Quandre Diggs helps someone like Jamal Adams. Like there's definitely that combination, that connection, that camaraderie that is really important to the game of football. And I think that's something that we often overlook. We always think about it as players just in a vacuum when football is completely not that at all. So I think you have to say, yeah, the Seahawks made the right move. This is a player that they wanted. This is maybe, Pete Carroll's Troy Polamalu, who, he wants someone that can just kind of wreck all over the field. And while I think there are definitely some limitations to Jamal Adams' game that I wish that we could see improvement on, I'm not actually worried about the fact that they extended him because there was a lot of posturing that was happening. There was a lot of things that kind of made it seem like it was worse than it was, but from a local media perspective, from a Seahawks perspective, it was nothing but like, yeah, we're talking, we're not worried about it, we don't think they're going to miss games. Even after Jamal signed his contract, he says, I wasn't going to miss the game, I was going to sign the contract. So it's easy to say that now that it's all done, but there were a lot of hints that was happening, and I talked about this a lot. Like the first comment I wrote on the Jamal Adams thread on Hawkscast.net was, enjoy playing on the franchise tag. There's just too much money for these guys to lose out on by not playing a game. And that's kind of my thought process with Dwayne Brown, and we'll talk about that in topic number 4. But these guys can't afford to lose the money. Not because they don't have money, but it's just that's so much money to turn down by not suiting up. Jamal Adams was going to lose about $600,000 to $700,000 if he sat out on any game this year. And now he's making that money, plus he's got a signing bonus. He's got $38 million guaranteed in the next however many years. So I don't know anyone that would turn that money down, especially since we're not the Jets. We're not a terrible franchise. Like, he's seen success. He's in the playoffs. He's so excited for that. And, I feel the Seahawks can be better this year. So I think it's the right move. I think it was a no-brainer. I think both sides let cooler heads prevail, and no one got out of hand, and everyone did what they needed to do. So, good job, Seahawks.
Yeah, yay.
Pat on the hand, pat on the back. High fives all around, gentlemen. If things turn sour, would you have been okay with him playing on the franchise tag, or would you have looked to move him if it got that bad?
It's kind of both. You franchise tag him, then you trade him, right?
Yeah.
I always hate the idea of a player playing disgruntled like that. You know what I mean?
It's better to have gruntled players than disgruntled players.
Exactly. A whole roster of gruntled guys, please.
Lunch pail guys, that's what they're called.
I hate to say it, but especially Jamal Adams, that dude's already man. There's the narrative in New York. It's hard to cut through it all because everybody's got such a invested interest in their narrative being the one that gets swallowed. But if you think that he was just so frustrated with the losing culture there, and that's why he was so jerky. Great, fine. But what if he actually was just a difficult dude once he doesn't get what he thinks is coming to him? And that could have been trouble.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same point, if he probably would have taken that money if it came from New York as well. If they were saying yeah, you're in your 3rd year, this is when we're finally allowed to talk about an extension. Let's start talking about it. And it looks like the Jets had no interest. They wanted him to play on his 5th year option, and they wanted him to work it out then. I get from his standpoint why he would want to try and get his money right away because he had been playing so well his first 3 years. But I mean, the Jets are also just a really poorly run organization, man. They're a team that's constantly drafting in the top 10. That is not the place you want to be, especially when you can't use that to turn your ship around.
You got
I
to
think
use
they're on the right track now. I sort of do.
I don't know if I buy into Zach Wilson yet. I'll wait to hold my judgment until he plays a real offense in a real game. Not saying he can't be good. I'm just saying, like, you know,
No, we've already written it down. You think he sucks forever.
Final thoughts about Jamal Adams and his extension.
How many sacks does he get this year, real quick?
I think he's going to get 10. I'm going to get 10.
17. He had 9.5 in 12 games last year.
I'm gonna be. We'll probably talk about that more once we get to the regular season podcast.
Yeah,
but I'm gonna say right now, I'm gonna say 10. I feel very comfortable with 10 sacks this year, which is insane.
So he's got 5 more games to get a half a sack more.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, he's got to get 12. I need 12 out of him.
Ooh, man, 12 sacks from your safety.
Yep. See, I kind of agree with Sammy because I feel like this year they're going to have. I mean, no, you're not going to catch anybody by surprise anymore. You shouldn't have been able to last year, but you clearly did. But like now he's got the record. It's been talked about. He's been in the news. He's big contract. Blah blah blah. So I do think that they're going to have. You know, teams are going to look for it more. You're going to have to disguise it more. But man, that's a lot of. I think they'll still do it. I think. You know, like I said, that's 5 more games to do that.
I mean, honestly, if you think about it, the fact that he plays safety and if he can get double-digit sacks, you're basically saving $5 million a year. A pass rushing defensive end, a pass rushing offense outside linebacker that can get 20 sacks a year, that's a minimum of $22 million a year at this point.
I mean, we talked. I mean, I talked about this on our website, hawkscast.net. Go check it out. There's a discussion about this. I don't necessarily think so because I don't. I mean, although I do value them, and I like them, and I like I said, I see him. I think I'm more on the Zeb side. I think he was closer to 12, maybe even 13, but 13, maybe not. Okay, I'll go back down to 12. Thanks, Zeb. No, but I don't think that you can value a sack that comes from the strong safety position the same as a sack from the edge.
And I agree with that. I'm just talking from just a pure statistical to contract value.
Sure. If you want to break it down,
that's what Jamal Adams was always going to be gunning for, saying like, hey, if I was a linebacker, you'd pay me this much. And it's like, well, you're not a linebacker, you're a safety, and we need you to play coverage sometimes. So, all right, let's move on to topic number 4. Topic number 4, Ross kind of already gave us a quick peek at, but should the Seahawks try to acquire someone before the season or go with the roster they've got? So John Schneider calls you on his bat phone. You're the GM. Ross is already making a move to get a cover corner. Ross, is there any other moves you're making as a new GM for the Seahawks? Just until the season starts, though.
To be honest, yeah, a lot. So you look at the second half. Like we talked about, like they didn't game plan. They didn't let anybody play. Denver ran out their ones. We didn't do anything. And Oakland ran out their ones. We didn't do. But yeah, but the second half of the games, of both those games also happened, and we still didn't do anything. Our 3s against their 3s and our 4s against their 4s indicate that when it gets to the deep depth, we're not there right now. And so really, I think there should be like a heavy amount of waiver-wise scurrying, scavenging. I think in particular, it's worth looking at other corners, like I already said. Like that one I would trade for. But I think looking at waiver wires, kind of even just adding depth, I think you need to look at some tight ends because we need to add something there. Man, I sort of kind of wish we'd kept Jacob Hollister now. I think it's worth taking a look at some linebackers because although it looked really cool, like we talked about, I'm not sure the Seahawks can cross that bridge and really feeling comfortable with the fullback backing up the linebackers. Safety I feel okay about. But starting cornerback and cornerback depth, I mean, obviously they just got... Who'd they just get?
Fields from Texas.
Yeah.
From the Texans for a conditional 2023 pick, I believe.
Yeah. I don't know if I don't want to steal the whole conversation. I'm just saying that our 3s going against other teams' 3s haven't been very good either. So I think we have one of the best starting lineups both sides of the ball in the NFL. But, besides it's, people always say it's defensive wins championships, it's also depth. And I think that's our Achilles heel right now. Some people are going to get hurt, and the players behind him right now aren't really showing up. So I'm open to any answer, really. I want to hear who's in particular thinks where we should go after because Man.
Yeah.
Well, here's the problem: is I have no idea.
John Schneider calls up Zeb, like, Zeb, what do you think? It's like, I don't know, man.
I don't know. I mean, there's obviously KJ still out there, and I think after watching Darrell Taylor play linebacker, I think it might be a good idea to bring KJ back, but it doesn't sound like it's going to happen. So I don't know. I do, Geno Atkins is another guy that we've looked at.
If you had the choice between Geno and KJ, assuming that they're going to cost somewhat similar amounts of money, would you lean towards KJ over Geno Atkins?
God, that's tough. I don't know. I mean, I'd like to bring them both in, I guess. I don't know if I have to pick between the two. I guess I probably have a little more faith in our defensive line as a whole. But yeah, I assume that John Schneider is going to do his due diligence, and like he always does, he's looking under every stone and checking out every possible option. So I'm sure they'll do some things, but I don't, outside of Atkins and KJ, I don't have a lot of insight as to what I think it would be.
The one thing that I think the Seahawks are losing out by not having a great preseason and their 2, 3s, and 4s looking pretty poor is that it means that there's not going to be any opportunity for Seattle to try and get additional late round picks for guys. Like, one of the advantages of expanding the roster until like a week before the regular season is that teams, instead of like getting cuts throughout the preseason, there's just like this massive cut that happens on one day, and rather than try and fight other teams for a player, it's worthwhile to send a conditional 7, the conditional 6, the 6th round pick for a player that you really want to have on your team because you think that depth that they could add is so huge. I think that's a huge loss that we haven't seen. I mean, I remember in our Legion of Boom heyday with Marshawn and Russ, when everything was young and new, we had tons of guys that were getting traded and picked up by other teams. Like, every person said, oh, this guy flashed in the preseason, but we have to cut him. They immediately got picked up. Like, I remember we would always talk about, any time that a former Seahawk got cut in training camp, they would immediately get signed to another team. We're probably not going to see that with what we've seen on the field so far, unless there's some hidden tape out there.
What's funny about that? Sorry, just brief interruption. I'll try to be brief. I'm not really good at that.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. It's funny you talk about like those 2013, 2014 Seahawks players, those depth guys, when they'd get cut, they'd get picked up immediately. So many of those players are still playing. Like those like fringe, we thought super fringe players. It's really weird to look on the like preseason games, because I've got the Game Pass. I can go to any of them anytime, and you still see like what's his name? The Super Bowl MVP, but wasn't
Malcolm
really
Smith.
Malcolm. That dude's still around. Like, that dude's old and playing, but that dude's like living his life off of like, I was on the 2013-14 Seahawks D, so I'm good forever.
Yeah, but Malcolm Smith, I mean, he was a great fourth linebacker. I would take.
Did you really think he was going to be in the league like 8 years later?
I mean, to think that a guy that was like your 4th best linebacker, 5th best linebacker, is going to make an 8-year career in the NFL. Yeah, I would say that's kind of an anomaly.
And he's not the only one. Like, a ton of those guys who were like just fringe dudes who had like a cup of coffee with us are still playing. It's weird to like Tremaine Pope. That dude, like, yeah,
preseason superstar that we cut.
Yeah. Like, that dude got cut this week from some team because he's been still playing in the NFL. I had no idea. Yeah. That's just that normally on most teams, that's a dude, like, once he gets cut, like, he goes to the Canadian Football League for a preseason and then starts washing cars in his dad's car wash. But, like, that dude just got cut this week. I'm like, what?
That's crazy.
And, like, every day, dudes, like, who, like, had a cup of coffee during our heydays are still playing, man. It's weird. Anyway. Now, but to your point, though, like, now that doesn't happen. Right now, it's us. Like, my simple strategy based on the last 2 games is when teams make their cuts, we go pick up some Denver Bronco and Las Vegas Raider dudes because their 3s were better than ours.
Yeah.
Like, their number 3 quarterback, they're like Like, the Raiders only played their number 3 quarterback, and like that dude like lit us up.
Nate Peterman, that guy threw 5 interceptions and a half with Buffalo.
Yeah, I mean that dude used. Yeah.
But he looked like a quarterback when he played our defense.
The Raiders are kind of smart with their quarterbacks. They sort of moneyball, like find people who are all legit or have been legit starters at one point or semi-legit starters, but nobody wants them anymore because of this, that, or the other thing. And so now, you know, they're a team that if their main quarterback goes down, their season's not done.
Yeah.
They can still play. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
dude, like imagine
is it the UW dude? Is their backup? Is it UW?
Mariota,
he's Oregon.
Yeah.
Oregon, sorry.
Imagine being Joe Flacco and you're like playing in the third quarter of a preseason game. Is like,
yeah. He like sitting on the like the bench, going like, I won a Super Bowl.
I won a Super Bowl.
Your teammates just think you're senile. Yeah. Sure, Joe. You won a Super Bowl.
Like,
that's why
Ray Lewis won you a Super Bowl. Come on, Joe. Be real here.
But like he's out there like playing in the fourth quarter, like you said. I remember throwing a touchdown to the Super Bowl. Yeah, sure you do, Joe. Yeah, sure you were in the Super Bowl, huh? Ouch.
All right, that's our topics. Let's move on to some of our predictions. So Zeb, we're shooting high with some of these predictions, so feel free to tee it up here. But
who are we playing this week?
We're going to play the Los Angeles Chargers in Seattle.
Okay.
So I'm shooting hot for the sky here. Over under 10 offensive points.
Under.
Ross.
Over.
I
think Pete Carroll's gonna. I don't think he's gonna completely switch the script around until next year, like I said. But I think he's gonna lean into Shane a little bit more and say, you know what, like, dude, I'm not against firing the offensive coordinator in the preseason. Score me some points, bud.
Wow. I'm gonna say a push. I think they're gonna max their previous 2-game total and they're gonna score 10 points.
Nice.
Zeb,
no, dude, it's gonna be a plethora of scoring. We're gonna score 17.
I don't even know who would score. Zeb, over under 20 defensive points allowed.
Over.
Ross, you said we're
It's the
scoring
Chargers.
17.
Over.
I'm gonna say over as well. The defense that they've trotted out so far, there's no one on that defense that I think is gonna really shut anyone down. So I don't expect it to be a very close game. Zeb, over under. Are we gonna see 5.5 starters from the offense or defense play in this third preseason game? I think we're averaging about 2 or 3 right now.
Yeah, under.
Ross,
I'm going over with this one again. I just think like Pete's getting a little anxious based on his post game comments last week, and like, dude, can we actually play?
Yeah, well, they could wheel all the guys out for a drive this week. Who knows?
I'm gonna say under. I think that at this point, I understand the value of trying to get them reps against a real team, but if the Chargers aren't going to play anyone of value, then I don't see the Seahawks doing the same thing. I'm going to say under 5.5 play. Zeb, I worded this question poorly on my show sheet here, but who's going to get more of the snaps? Is it going to be Geno or is it going to be Sean Mannion? We don't have Magoo anymore, so.
Yeah, it's going to be Mannion. Geno's going to play a little bit at the beginning, and then Mannion's going to play the rest of the game.
Is Geno out of, like, I mean, is he totally healthy now?
I don't know if he's
because that dude got rocked.
Yeah, I don't know if he's 100% out of concussion protocol.
So, like, this could just be the Sean Mannion show, man.
Oh man, that is going to be a terrible.
Sean Mannion's. I thought, like, I mean, he's obviously super obvious, like, super. What's it called? Captain Checkdown. But that's actually kind of a good sign when your third string quarterback doesn't understand like his own ability and still tries to like push the ball down the field, but doesn't have the arm or the vision to do that. Like Sean Mannion knows, like he's got he doesn't think he's Joe Namath. Like he knows the offense. And I thought it was pretty smooth, and he just checks down. Okay, cool. That's not awesome as a starter, but if you're the third string quarterback and you know that's what you are able to do, I thought it was some decent self awareness there.
Yeah,
I think he can move the ball if we actually have like real linemen out there and some real like running game support. Yeah, I'm not going to overstate it.
Yeah. I'm with both of you. I think Sean Mannion's going to play a majority of the game, take more than all of the snaps. Zeb, over under 15 snaps for Mr. One, Rashad Penny.
I think it's gonna be close. I'll go under.
Ross?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
The non-answer, I appreciate that.
I have this weird feeling about Penny. I just feel like they're just about like done with him.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
I feel like CJ Prosay's got more love than Rashad Penny is, and it's probably because he's a first rounder where CJ was the second rounder, but
That dude's still playing too.
their careers are essentially identical at this point. I'm going to say under. If they try to run the ball, I'd like to see more DJ Dallas get some opportunities. I think that Rashad Penny, if he's not healthy, he's just not going to look good and he's not going to get snaps. Zeb, do you have a surprise cut for us before the regular season starts?
Let's just roll with it. Rashad Penny.
Ooh, wow.
Man, so another surprise cut. Well, it would have been. Well, hold on. Damn, there's nobody left. Literally, there's only like 5 people on the whole damn team. If you think we're cut, you'd be really surprised, right?
Right.
Nobody else is like any of the cornerbacks except for like Trey Brown. You could like cut and like you wouldn't be that surprised, right?
Yeah.
Like
Little surprised, like Flowers or Spoon got cut.
would you be surprised if they cut Flowers the way they treated him last year and the way they just like took him out this in like the first preseason game? They were just like, dude, okay, we've seen enough. Let's go sit down. He's another interesting guy because he's the guy like training camp reports and even OTA reports were all like, this dude gets it now. This dude gets it. He's gets it now. The light has come on, and then they put him in a game, and they're like after the first quarter, like Pete Carroll was like, "Yeah, can we take a look at that dude? That dude, that's the ball boy. Yeah, just let's take a look."
Yeah.
So I don't know how many people I'm really surprised. Maybe Monet. Is he a candidate?
Yeah, I could see that happening. He could be on the block. Since
there's not a lot of people. I mean, like I guess some of those running backs. It's weird because a running back that has, for Seattle fans, some sort of name familiarity is going to get cut, so that will sort of feel like a surprise, but it can't be because one of them has to go, right? We can't keep everybody.
Yeah, the odds of them keeping 4 running backs is pretty slim. Carson's a lock. Dallas looks like a lock, so it's Penny or Homer. And Penny feels like overall has like the pedigree, but Homer hasn't practiced. So it wouldn't be like a case of, oh well, he says always compete but didn't compete. Like Homer Seahawks super value availability, right? Yeah.
So it would be a shock if Penny was to go, but I understand it. It would feel a little like favoritism if Homer's let go, but at the same time, dude, you haven't practiced, so
yeah. I mean, that's maybe more a candidate to put him on IR to return, so you can keep his roster. But yeah,
what if we hire somebody to go like sprain Penny's ankle, like just grab it and twist it, and then IR that dude? But like the short term one, like if somebody else does get hurt, we can bring it back after 6 weeks or something, 8 weeks, 6 weeks.
Yeah.
What's that rule? What's that weird IR rule now?
It's 8 weeks, I believe.
8 weeks. I want Penny on IR, 8-week IR.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I don't know if I have a surprise cut, just because like of what everyone said, it seems like for the most part, if anyone does get cut, it's not so much a surprise, but just kind of a numbers game. I don't think there's anyone that's prime for like, oh, I didn't see that coming. Zeb, is there anyone that you're going to say is a surprise starter for the offense or the defense?
I don't know how much of a surprise it is, but I'll say Fuller at center.
Makes sense.
That's kind of a. Okay, I've got. I'm going to go with that theme since it's a surprise. I'm going to say the other Fuller at wide receiver 3. It's not exactly a starter, but
Aaron
kind of
Fuller. Ooh.
Yes. Aaron Fuller, he's shown up a little bit, hasn't he?
He's the only one that's probably got like multiple catches in the game that of note, I would say.
And am I biased against Freddie Swain? Does that do anything for anybody?
I like Freddie Swain.
You just like his name, though, don't you? Freddie. That's cool.
I like his name. His name's tight, but he's looked pretty good. I mean, I wouldn't put him as a starter anywhere, but
if they didn't have jersey numbers, could you tell the difference between Swain and Ursua?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Ursua was just never.
Swain's got a little more.
I think it. Yeah, in my brain, I think I just treat him essentially as the same person.
Yeah. My surprise starter, it's not going to be at safety, but I'm going to say Ryan Neal. He's going to get some more looks over at in the secondary, not necessarily as like a corner or just like a.
You say it's sort of like a bandit situation.
I think so. I mean, I think he's one of the more consistent guys that we've seen in the past year. He definitely came up big last year. I think Ryan Neal has deserved more playing time, and also he's got a cool number now, 26. That's a cool debut number.
God, I feel like Sammy's like playing in my heartstrings here. He knows I've got a soft spot for safety. He's getting time.
All right.
I love me some Ryan Neal. Like I want, do you remember like the first year when we didn't have enough players, and so like when the year we played Mike Williams, we let Mike Williams back in the NFL, and he was actually our best receiver for a year year. And we didn't have anybody to play defense, so like Pete Carroll would roll out like 6 and 7 DBs, just whatever. That's who we've got who can play. Like that's where I feel like I'm at this year. Like I want Brooks, I want like 4 linemen, and then Brooks and Wagner, and then just like any 5 of the safety.
Blair, Amadi.
Yeah, and then
Spoon,
Neal, and then
Reed, Neal,
Quandre
and Adams, just like go 7 DB deep.
Yeah, and then just be like, and like they don't get designated. I mean, Birdfinger hates this, but like they don't have any designated positions. They just play where they need to play because they're just guys. They're just athletes.
Yeah,
and you just play this sort of like Bruce Lee be like water defense, which I've always been intrigued with since I read Bruce Lee's biography a few years ago, and I'm just trying to still have this like synthesis going on in my mind between Bruce Lee and Pete Carroll's philosophy that I'm going to write down. I want this be like water. Big guys up front, fast, big, strong playmaker dudes in the back, and let's go, man.
Yeah,
that's mine.
All right, final prediction for the night. Are we going to see more of Nick Bellore at fullback or linebacker?
Linebacker,
but not like, oh my god, he's so good at linebacker. But like, how many plays does Shane have for fullbacks?
Yeah, I would say it's like fullback is the lost position in the NFL.
It's going to make a comeback, though.
It's like the step above the long snapper at this point.
Dude, John
L, yes. See, like, that's the thing. It kind of died out when the Seahawks didn't go to a third Super Bowl, but, like, for a while, Earl Thomas and Cam Chancellor were leading, like, a safety revolution. Safety was being respected again for a couple of years, right?
Yeah.
I feel like a John L. Williams type that can completely block but can also completely run. And I think that, but also catch as well. And I think that somebody like that could open the eyes again to the NFL of the utility of the fullback position.
I think what's more likely to happen, like I'm not saying it's impossible, but the way that college teams are run now, they will move you from that kind of position and they'll put you somewhere else. So rather than being able to play like a fullback, they're going to put you at linebacker or they're going to put you at safety. They're not going to let you stay as a fullback in that kind of
well, that's an issue. They do that with a lot of stuff now. Like that's one of the reasons like positions die. It's not that the position's not good. It's that you don't get to play it for years because you get to high school or especially like you said college and people move you. And all of a sudden you're playing a good position for college, but it's not what you have pro potential at.
Right. And I think that's a deficiency in the college game, Everyone wants to run a spread, fast-paced offense, but, the people that seem to do the best and quickest transition to the NFL, they tend to lean towards more, pro-style offenses. So
yeah. But it also is Secular. Like, I can clearly still remember watching specials on the weekend about like how the tight end position was dying out, like in the late '80s, like legit, like in a couple years there won't be any more tight ends. But like obviously that was
and then Carl Lester Crumpler changed everything.
Exactly. No, because like in the early '80s there was like this like Ozzie Newsome and Kellen Winslow and Christensen for the Raiders that were like Todd Christensen. They're like they revolutionized. But
have you heard of the Joe Gibbs story?
That dude ran 2 seconds, right?
Yeah, so that's exactly what I'm leaning to. So this is the old Washington football team coach Joe Gibbs, his first time around. They played in the whatever the NFC East version was back in the day. I think it was still called that.
Cowboys and
Lawrence Taylor, one of the best pass rushing linebackers in the NFL, played in the division. So the Washington team had to play the Giants twice a year. And he said, you know what, I got to do something. I can't just leave my tackle by himself. So he would run 2 tight ends. I think they called it ace formation. And that's how Joe Gibbs revitalized the tight end, because like I just need this extra blocker that sometimes is going to, catch a ball because Lawrence Taylor is not rushing from that side. So that's that cyclical thing that you're talking about. But it's not because necessarily that someone there is innovating. It's because it's a counter to a dominant player, dominant play style, or whatever new wave of football people are copying at the time.
Hey, I got some real quick potential breaking news if you guys are interested.
Yeah.
Matty F. Brown reports that per a source, Richard Sherman and the Seahawks are talking.
Is this Richard Sherman saying they're talking, or is this a non-Sherman Seahawk source?
I don't know who the source is.
Ooh, I do love me some Richard Sherman.
He's matured a lot. And completely broken down mentally.
Yeah. So it's a wide spectrum he just had in this off season.
Yeah.
No, but like that dude, when he left, I was more mad than you guys about how he left. I mean, that's always the truth case, and like what he said about PKL and whatnot, and but like I don't think he feels like that anymore. So it's weird. Remember, like how he was predicting, like once he left and like all the cool kids left, we would be like a bottom feeding team and whatnot. What happened to that, Richard? But he gets it, so I'm okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think that comes with maturity in the game, but yeah.
I totally want him now. I said that a few weeks ago. Even I don't even mind after the whole Richard's bad night.
Yeah,
I think he can get some help. I think he's smart enough to know he needs help. I think he's getting it, and I want Richard. Go Richard.
Yeah, just bring that passion to the field. That's what I want.
And not like in like the Minnesota Vikings way. Like the Minnesota Vikings now are just like signing anybody who's ever used to play for their team, just like hoping to put something together. I don't think like they're like trying to get Richard Sherman back, thinking we're putting back together the LOB or like he's going to be 2013, 2014 Sherman. But I think they want him back for the attitude, and I think they want him back for what he still has left. And that would probably help with Adams, because if Adams can cover it all, like if you're gonna move him up in the box but have him bail, he can probably cover like the flat.
Yeah.
So you can still have Sherman do what he does best and do a cover 3.
And Akila Witherspoon speaks very highly of Richard Sherman as well, so that's maybe a nice pairing to go back to.
Well, Witherspoon could be the surprise cut, dude.
Well, we'll see. I mean, that's true, but we'll find out in about a week. And
like that'd be so awesome. Like Witherspoon speaks awesome of Richard Sherman. Richard Sherman comes in, and then like they say goodbye to Witherspoon. Oh, sorry. One last thing I want to say. I know we've gone way over length today, but Malik McDowell.
Yeah.
Man, whatever with that guy.
Dude, 25. No, I'm happy for this dude. Like 25 snaps for the Browns this last game, second half snaps, but still 1 sack, 2 quarterback hits, and like 1 tackle for loss and 5 tackles out of 25 snaps.
It's like 5 years too late for me to care.
4 years too late, but no, I just because it sounded like the Seahawks. We've talked about this before. Like, sounded like the Seahawks didn't really want to say it because they didn't really want to, humiliate anybody. But it sounded like they were sort of dancing around the fact that dude has brain damage, like serious brain damage. And like he had like a 1-day try with the Dallas Cowboys, and they let him go like after an hour and a half. So like, oh god, that guy probably can't even talk. But he actually played a game. I'm happy for him. I'm getting old. I'm sorry.
I'm indifferent. There's no sentimentality.
Oh, I can see that.
Definitely.
Sorry. All right. Thanks, guys.
If you look at a picture of him when he was with us still, and then look at his picture now with the Browns, he does look a little bit.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the. It's interesting.
I'm gonna look.
All right. While Ross is looking into the Malik McDowell lifetime story.
And I put the eyeliner pictures in a chat. Go take a look. Oh, you're right. He's like cross-eyed and stuff now.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I mean, hey, but if it's working, good for him.
It's someone else's problem right now. We don't face the Browns this year unless it's in the playoffs and the Super Bowl. So, it is what it is. I whatever.
Holy shit, dude! Legit, it doesn't even look like the same person. It's like they've just like rolled somebody out like with the same name.
Yeah, it's probably a clone.
Yeah.
Execute orders.
Weird. That's weird.
Yeah, exactly. But gentlemen, that is our show for today. We had a lot to talk about because we had 2 games to cover, lots of feelings. It's time for some shout-outs.
Shout out to Smoking Hawk.
Yeah. Shout out to everybody who tries to make the world a little bit better every single day.
Genuinely.
That's a lot of people to shout out to, so I like.
No, I really don't. I really don't think it is. That's why.
Oh, okay.
I think it's like 7 people.
Shout out to the gentleman on the other side of the internet from me, Zeb and Ross, and I'm Sam. We are the HawksCast.net podcast. Catch us on Seahawks on Twitter at Seahawks Podcast or Seahawks Forum. We've got a website, HawksCast.net. We have a lot of stuff out there, a lot of fun content, a lot of great posters. Check out the forum. It's a lot of fun, and we wish you all a Go Hawks.
Go Hawks!
Go Hawks!